The Sunday dinner invitation should have been my first warning. My mother-in-law hadn't spoken to me in 3 months, not since I'd quietly refused to discuss family financial restructuring at Thanksgiving. Now she wanted me at her house. Alone. My husband was conveniently scheduled for a business trip. Just go, Marcus had said that morning, kissing my forehead. She's making an effort. Maybe she's finally accepting that we're our own family now. I drove to her estate in Westchester, the same house where Marcus grew up, where family photos lined every wall showing 3 generations of inherited wealth. Old money. The kind that came with expectations. She answered the door in a pressed linen suit, her silver hair perfectly styled. Come in, dear. We have much to discuss. The dining room table was set for 6. My stomach tightened. Marcus's brother sat at the far end, his wife beside him. Marcus's sister occupied the middle seat with her husband. All 4 stared at me with identical expressions, determined smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Sit, my mother-in-law commanded. I remained standing. What's this about? Your assets. She placed a leather folder on the table, sliding it toward the empty chair. We've had them appraised. Commercial properties in Brooklyn and Queens. The medical office building in Manhattan. Stock portfolio. Cryptocurrency holdings. Conservative estimate puts your net worth at $42 million. My throat went dry. Those assets were mine, earned through 15 years of software development, strategic investments, careful planning. Long before I'd met Marcus, I'd kept them separate intentionally, learning early that money changed family dynamics. That's private information, I said quietly. Nothing's private in a family. Marcus's brother leaned forward. Mom's right. We need to liquidate 20% of your holdings. She needs the cash for what? I interrupted. Silence. My mother-in-law's jaw tightened. That's not your concern. What matters is family obligation. Marcus married you. You're part of this family now. We share resources. I'm not liquidating anything. You will. Her voice dropped to ice. Or Marcus will learn some very interesting things about your past investments. Certain, questionable partnerships in your early 20s. I'd expected threats. There's nothing questionable. Every investment was legal and documented. Legal isn't the same as ethical. She opened another folder. Your partnership with Daniel Kovic in 2011. He was later convicted of securities fraud that occurred 2 years after I'd sold my shares and severed all business ties. I finished. The SEC investigated me thoroughly. I was cleared completely. Try again. Marcus's sister stood abruptly. You're being selfish. Mom needs this money. We all agreed to contribute. Then contribute your own assets. I picked up my purse. I'm leaving. No. My mother-in-law moved to block the dining room exit. You're not. The kitchen door opened. 2 men I didn't recognize entered, positioning themselves behind me. Large men. The kind hired for intimidation. Sit down. My mother-in-law repeated. I activated my smartwatch's emergency recording feature with 3 taps, a habit from my days doing business in volatile markets. The device looked like jewelry, its microphone sensitive enough to capture everything within 20 feet. This is illegal detention, I said calmly. This is family intervention. She pulled out the chair. Sit. Sign the liquidation authorization. Then you can leave. I calculated distances, exits, possibilities. The front door was blocked. The kitchen had the 2 hired men. Windows, 2nd floor. My phone was in my purse, which Marcus's brother had just moved to the sideboard, out of reach, but my watch was recording everything. I sat. She pushed papers across the table. Authorization forms for my brokerage. Access to my cryptocurrency wallets. Instructions to my property management company. I'm not signing. You will. She stood, walking toward the kitchen. Or we'll help you reconsider. I heard the stove ignite. The scrape of a pan. Marcus's sister's face went pale. Mom, you said we were just going to talk to her. We are talking. My mother-in-law's voice drifted from the kitchen. Sometimes talks require visual aids. She returned carrying a large saucepan, steam rising from its contents. The smell of heated cooking oil filled the room. 3rd-degree burns take months to heal, she said conversationally, setting the pan on a trivet beside my chair. Plenty of time to reconsider your selfishness. You're insane, I whispered. I'm practical. She lifted the pan. Sign. Or learn what real family obligation means. I lunged for the door. The 2 hired men caught my arms. wrenching them behind me. Marcus's brother and brother-in-law stood from their chairs, moving to help restrain me. Hold her still, my mother-in-law commanded. They forced me forward, bending me over the table. Someone yanked my shirt up, exposing my back. Last chance, she said. I turned my head, making sure my watch faced her directly. This is assault. You're all witnesses. You're all complicit. Who's going to believe you? She smiled. Accidents happen. You tripped. The pan fell. So tragic. Then she poured. The oil hit my skin. And I screamed, a sound I didn't recognize as my own. It felt like being flayed alive, like every nerve ending simultaneously caught fire. The oil ran down my back, pooling at my waistband, soaking through fabric to burn deeper. They released my arms and I collapsed, writhing on the floor. Through the agony, I heard them. Oh my God, Mom. You actually did it. Get the camera, document everything. We'll say she threatened us first. Look at her skin. It's literally bubbling. She'll sign now. They always sign. I forced my eyes open. My mother-in-law stood above me, still holding the pan, ready to cooperate. She asked. I couldn't speak, could barely breathe, but I kept my watch arm visible, angled toward them. Let it capture everything. Their faces, their voices, their celebration of my torture. Get her up, my mother-in-law ordered. We'll do the arms next, if she doesn't. The front door burst open. Pulse. Hands where we can see them. Later I learned my watch had automatically called 911. When my heart rate spiked above 180, the emergency operator had heard everything. 3 patrol cars arrived in 4 minutes. The paramedics cut away my clothing in the ambulance. I stayed conscious through it all, focusing on details, watching them photograph my injuries, listening to them radio ahead to the hospital. Severe second and third degree burns covering approximately 18% of body surface area. Patient is lucid and communicative. Multiple witnesses to assault. Scene secured. Which hospital? I managed to ask. Mount Sinai. They have the best burn unit in the city. Of course they did. I'd made sure of that. The trial took 11 months. My burns required 4 surgeries, 3 months of daily dressing changes, 6 months of physical therapy. The scarring would be permanent, raised discolored tissue across my back and arms, that no amount of reconstruction could completely erase. But the evidence was perfect. My watch had recorded 23 minutes of audio, every threat, every word, the sound of oil pouring, my screams, their discussion of cover-up strategies. The prosecution didn't need much else. Still, my mother-in-law's defense attorney fought hard. Members of the jury, he'd argued during opening statements, you'll hear about a family dispute over money, a woman who married into wealth, but refused to share her own fortune, a family intervention that went tragically wrong, an accident, not attempted murder. Then came the medical testimony. Dr. Sarah Okafor took the stand on day 3. She was the burn specialist who'd overseen my treatment, a brilliant surgeon I'd recruited from Johns Hopkins 7 years earlier. The prosecutor established her credentials first. Board certified, published researcher, director of burn services at Mount Sinai. Dr. Okafor, can you describe the plaintiff's injuries? Second-degree burns covering the upper back, third-degree burns on both arms. The pattern was consistent with liquid being poured from above, not splashed from a fall or accident. The depth and distribution indicated prolonged contact with a heated substance. Could these injuries have been accidental? No, the pattern is unmistakable. Someone poured hot liquid on her, while she was restrained in a bent position. The defense attorney stood for cross-examination. Dr. Okafor, isn't it true you have a personal relationship with the plaintiff? I wouldn't call it personal, but you know her outside of this case. Yes. How? Dr. Okafor looked directly at the jury. The plaintiff created and endowed the burn unit where I practice. The courtroom went silent. I'm sorry, the defense attorney said. Could you repeat that? In 2018, the plaintiff donated $15 million to establish Mount Sinai's Advanced Burn Treatment Center. She funded construction, equipment purchases, and created an endowment for ongoing research. She recruited me to lead the program. I wouldn't have this position without her vision and resources. My mother-in-law's face drained of color. So you're biased? The attorney tried. I'm factual, Dr. Okafor replied. The plaintiff's philanthropy doesn't change burn patterns. Physics doesn't care about donation. These injuries were deliberately inflicted. The prosecutor stood for redirect. Dr. Okafor, why did the plaintiff establish this burn unit? Her younger brother died from burn injuries when she was 19. House fire. He was transported to 3 different hospitals before finding adequate treatment. By then it was too late. She told me she never wanted another family to face those delays. I watched the jury, watched their expressions shift from neutral to sympathetic, watched them look at my mother-in-law with something approaching disgust. The defense never recovered. Additional witnesses testified. The police who responded, the paramedics, the hired security men, who'd been offered immunity in exchange for truthful testimony about being paid to help persuade me. Marcus's siblings, who'd taken plea deals and agreed to testify against their mother. The prosecution played the watch recording, all 23 minutes. Jurors visibly flinched at my screams. Deliberation took 90 minutes. Guilty, attempted murder, aggravated assault, unlawful imprisonment, criminal coercion. The judge scheduled sentencing for 3 weeks later. I stood before the court for my victim impact statement, my scarred arms visible below my short sleeves. I'd chosen to show them deliberately. Your Honor, the defendant tried to burn me into submission. She believed pain would break me. That torture would make me surrender assets I'd earned through 15 years of work. She was wrong. I turned to face my mother-in-law. She looked smaller in her orange jumpsuit, older without her careful styling. You thought you knew me. The quiet daughter-in-law, who didn't flaunt wealth, who drove a modest car, who worked from home, in comfortable clothes. You thought that meant weakness. You never asked why I established a burn unit, never asked about my brother, never asked about anything beyond how much I was worth, and how you could access it. You poured oil on someone who dedicated millions to helping burn victims. The irony isn't lost on anyone in this room. The judge sentenced her to 18 years. With her age and health, likely a life sentence. Marcus divorced me 3 months after the trial. He claimed he couldn't reconcile loving me with what his mother had done. Couldn't separate the two. I signed the papers without argument. The marriage had been contaminated beyond repair. My former in-laws sold their estate to pay legal fees and civil judgment. I didn't pursue additional damages beyond medical costs. The criminal convictions were enough. Dr. Okafor called last week. We're treating a 16-year-old boy. Kitchen accident. Grease fire. His family can't afford the extended care he needs. Add it to my foundation account, I said. Whatever he needs, however long it takes. You know, she said quietly. Your mother-in-law probably still doesn't understand what she did wrong. She tried to burn me into submission, I replied. Instead, she just proved why I keep my resources exactly where they are, helping people who actually need them, not feeding family entitlement. The scars itch sometimes, especially in cold weather. Physical therapy continues, but I'm healing, and somewhere in a prison upstate, my former mother-in-law is learning that months of healing time works both ways. Plenty of time for her to reconsider what family obligation actually means.